Hey y'all, it's Dawn, and I'm so glad you're back. I've got another fun, budget-friendly DIY video for you today. DIY number 1. I used these 3 plywood rectangles. I think I got them in a packet from Walmart for this project. I added some apple barrel burnt umber paint to a small amount of water and mixed it well to create a stain. I painted the stain mixture onto the wood and dried it with my heat gun. The stain was a little lighter than I wanted, so I added a small amount of Dollar Tree black acrylic paint and stirred it into the stain mixture. I applied the darker mixture to the boards, dried it with my heat gun, and then added another layer. The third coat gave me the richness I was looking for. I created these cut files in Design Space and then cut them out using Oracle 813 stencil vinyl. After weeding the vinyl, I applied it to some duck shelf liner. I know that sounds crazy, but I'll tell you this works great as transfer paper. I can reuse it over and over, and it's even great at picking up small print. I'll leave a link to the Amazon store I get mine from in case you want to give it a try. I applied the stencil to the stained wood, used my Mod Podge roller to make sure it was stuck good, and then removed the transferred paper. For the bonfire sign, I used Waverly Maze chalk paint, and the font I used was Abelia. I'm not sure how to say it, but here it is. And I think I got it from defont.com, but I'm not positive. I know it was a free font because I very rarely pay for fonts. Honestly, I can't remember ever paying for a font. I also used a Dollar Tree makeup sponge and a clothespin as my stencil brush. I saw another crafter do this, and I'll tell you, it really works. In my opinion, I have been more successful with this than I do with actual stencil brushes. I pounced the paint onto the stencil. I did this because I wanted my lines to be as crisp as possible with as little bleed through as possible. I moved the bonfire sign out of the way and started working on the next sign. I used my Mod Podge roller again and thought I would give the Mod Podge squeegee a try to see if it would help the stencil stick better. For the apple cider sign, I used Waverly Moss chalk paint, and the font I used was Grillin'. I also decided to use a Dollar Tree paintbrush to apply the paint. And with that one painted, it's time for the third sign. After applying the vinyl, I used my finger to make sure the stencil was stuck. I used Waverly pumpkin chalk paint and the pouncing method with the Dollar Tree makeup sponge and clothespin. The font I used was Magazine. I'll try to find all of these fonts and leave links to them in the description. I wanted to try all 3 stencil methods to see which one gave me the sharpest lines. After After the signs dried, I removed the vinyl to see how they turned out. The apple cider sign turned out perfect with no bleed through. The pumpkin sign has no bleed through, and using the pouncing method, it created a weathered look. Even the bonfire sign looked good, so I now know you need to use more than just a roller to attach the stencil. To make the stands for each of the signs, I used leftover pieces of paint sticks that I stained using the same mixture I used on the bonfire sign. I put hot glue on the side of the paint stick and attached it to the sign just a little bit above the bottom. You don't want to attach directly at the bottom or the sign won't stand up. I learned this earlier in my crafting adventures after making a sign and trying to figure out why it kept tipping over. And look at how cute these stenciled tiara tray signs turned out. Let me know in the comments what you think of these little tiara tray signs. And now for DIY number 2. I saw these adorable palette pumpkins on Facebook and knew I wanted to make a few for myself. I painted 3 Dollar Tree palettes with orange acrylic paint that I got from Dollar Tree. The only paint I've used from Dollar Tree was the white, and I didn't like it, but I was very impressed with this orange. The color is bright and the coverage is amazing for $1 acrylic paint. I will definitely be using more of their colored paints in the future. I mixed the paint with water to create an orange stain. I wanted the wood grain to show. I painted the 2 smaller palettes with the stain. For the larger palette, I mixed in a small amount of apple barrel burnt umber, so the color would be a little darker than the 2 smaller palettes. And then I realized I really liked the darker color, so I went back and added it to the 2 smaller palettes. I had this ivy in my stash and thought the stem would be perfect for the pumpkin stems. After cutting the stem, I used a marker to make a little curl in the stem for the pumpkins, and then straightened the end so I could glue it to the back of the palettes. At first, I was going to use the ivy leaves, but then remembered I had some fall leaves and decided to use them. I hot glued everything onto the palettes. If you like farmhouse decor and DIYs, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now. And if you hit the bell notification, YouTube will notify you when I upload a new video. I then made 2 simple bows using this Dollar Tree ribbon and hot glued them to the front of the 2 smaller palette pumpkins. I decided to wrap some twine around the larger pumpkin. The 2 smaller palette pumpkins will stand on their own, and I added 2 tumbling tower blocks to the back of the larger one to help it stand. I glued the blocks even with the bottom boards running across the back. And look at how stinking cute these little pallet pumpkins turned out. They are so farmhouse. I love them. Let me know in the comments what you think of these adorable little pumpkins. DIY number 3. This is a simple, easy, and quick fall DIY I think you're going to really love. I used Dollar Tree balloons to create these adorable little pumpkins. The first thing you'll want to do is cut the neck off of the balloons. I put 2 fingers in the balloon and grabbed a handful of stuffing and began stuffing the balloon until I was happy with the size. You can make these pumpkins whatever size you want depending on how much stuffing you put in them. After the balloon was stuffed, I rolled it around in my hand to shape it up. I added twine to add the indentions into the pumpkin. I actually tied the twine each time it overlapped. This actually helped to keep the twine in place. I tried just crossing it over, and when I got ready to move the twine into place, it would always slip off. When I was finished, I tied a knot at the top of the balloon. I moved the twine around and arranged it so that the balloon looked like a pumpkin. If you like farmhouse decor and DIYs, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now. And if you hit the bell notification, YouTube will notify you when I upload a new video. Short twig as the pumpkin stem and hot glued it to the top. I was afraid the hot glue would melt the balloon, but it worked without any problems. I then glued Spanish moss to the top and shaped it up and trimmed it. And look at how adorable these 3 little pumpkins are. I'm going to get some other color balloons and make more of these for sure. I think they are so stinking cute and they are so super easy to make. Let me know in the comments if you'll be adding these adorable pumpkins to your fall decor this season. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Happy crafting!